ability, they just don't attain it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think so too. I think so too. Somebody actually DM'd me a question about that, about just what energy is and what it is not. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. So that's kind of how really I explained it, because to me, the spiritual energy is in fact tangible to me. Like, it's so strong, it's tangible, right? Because that's
Yeah.
how we read it, because it
Right.
comes out.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think, have this idea that like spiritual energy is like a cloud and you can't really feel it, which on the surface, yes, but psychically, I feel like it becomes almost a tangible, energetic language, that it can be interpreted. Um,
I think that's a really
uh,
good explanation.
yeah, yeah. So that's the way I kind of explain it like that. Yeah. So so our podcast today is going to be on thoughts,
Mm.
thoughts, and or the scientific term cognitions. How
And
about
now
that thought?
it is being backed by science. Like actual studies are showing that like affirmations and truly kind of reframing your subconscious, your thoughts, really do impact everything. Everything.
Absolutely 1000%.
Because I mean, if you think about, well, we always like to talk about schizophrenia, but also DID, right?
Yes,
And you have
absolutely.
people who
Absolutely.
have just here completely
Yes,
different personas, and
yes,
one
yeah,
might have diabetes and it'll come up in
right.
blood work. The next person doesn't. That's insane,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Yes, absolutely. And it's almost like the power thereof to actually almost have a distinct identity,
Yep.
and it's so distinct, but yet it's so the same person. It's like very interesting how the idea of your thoughts could shift literally from one personality and seemingly shift over to what some say another personality.
Right.
It's very wow. That's it's mind-boggling to me. It just shows you really the power of the our thoughts, because really what make us up are our thoughts, right? So
Right. But is it the
all,
thought or is it the feeling?
or is it where the thought comes from?
So, which one comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Question: when we talk about our thoughts, um, when we talk about a higher consciousness, right, above us, like a
Yes.
higher realm, essentially, is that where we are saying our thoughts are being
Yes.
impressed?
100%. Yeah. Your thoughts
Okay.
do not have their own thoughtness, right? They're not just,
Hmm.
that's why people like Eckhart Tolle, they say your thoughts are not your own, right? So people like Jessica, she said her thoughts are a mess. When our thoughts are frantic and they're all over the place,
Yeah.
chances are you've got too much energy and things going on that are, I don't want to say attached to you because that makes it sound like a demon, right? But
Entity,
it
right?
right. But literally it can vary on the spectrum of connectivity to God, right? So that's the way I'll put
Okay.
that.
Absolutely.
So it could be
Absolutely.
something that's more dense or dark, or it could be
Yes.
something light. But because you're interacting with people and maybe in crowds, good God, energy truly
Hmm.
does attach. So if your thoughts are all over the place, chances are you're not sitting in your own energy and your own energy alone. So it's
So
about
you may be energetically exposed, if you will.
100%. And what I always kind of call it an energetic quilt, because you've been
Mm,
around all these people and you've taken pieces
mm.
of energy, right? And just existing, right? That's why, like, my apartment is my sanctuary. I come here and strip
Yeah.
everything off of myself, literally and spiritually and energetically. And I know my energy by itself. A lot of people have no clue what their own energy feels like, because they're
Mm.
so, it's kind of like you're a piece of Velcro and you're walking around and there's just, everybody has a bunch of dust bunnies and you're just collecting dust bunnies on your Velcro.
Which, if you think about that, is awful, especially if you've never got like a cleanse or a. That's really, if you think about that, you're just really a dirty rag. I mean,
I mean, yeah. And then dark
it's no
thoughts can
wonder
follow.
people feel like a dirty rag.
Yes, like
Oh my
legit.
goodness.
And a lot
That's
of
terrible.
shitty
Yeah.
things can follow. You can wake up and you're like, I don't feel like myself, because you probably aren't in your own energy.
So question. Um, it's clear then, thoughts could be negative, coming from a more dense, slower vibration, and
Absolutely.
coming from a higher frequency would be more of the positive thoughts versus like the negative thoughts. Now, which one's going to win, positive or negative? And I guess it would suppose which one we feed more, right? So the ones we allow, right? Because we don't have to allow every thought, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we don't have to allow the negative, pessimistic, and that's where we could say those thoughts don't even define us. Those thoughts don't even belong in our brain, let alone believe them. But that is a conscious choice, yes?
Oh, well, I think kind of, but I think a
Yeah.
lot of people just don't know. And you don't know until you know. Like, you
Okay.
don't, it doesn't hit until
Okay.
it hits, you know?
Yes, yes.
Because, I
It's
mean,
almost
if you
like
think of,
that aha moment, right? Where it's
yeah,
like, oh, yeah,
and you go,
yeah,
oh shit. And you
yes,
notice, when you start noticing the thoughts, that's an integral
yeah,
part of growth. And that's like the first step, right? Noticing you have a
yeah,
problem, right?
yeah, right,
It's the self
essentially.
awareness. That's the first step
Yes,
to growth and healing. 100%.
absolutely. Absolutely. When I first started catching my thoughts, and this was years ago when I started to understand the power of thoughts and the power of ideas and the power of just thoughts in general, um, there would be times that all of a sudden I would almost get, how can I explain this? I would almost get like a paralysis. I would almost get like a, oh, like all of a sudden doom and gloom. And I'd think, God, where did this come from? And then slowly but surely, when I started actually realizing how powerful thoughts were and are, is
Hmm.
when I started to catch them and say, oh, no wonder I feel that pit in my stomach. Ooh, that gives me a weird feeling. Or, ooh, that gives me anxiety. It was then when I started realizing the thoughts, I started bouncing them back because it's like, okay, as easy as they go in, they can easily go out. However, I think there could be that battle inside, that internal battle where you say, well, it came in real easy, but why is this one so hard to release?
Right.
Certain ones latch on more. And I think the ones that latch on more, we've built an identity around them that isn't even us. And it's almost like we have to chip away. If only we would understand, though, that even that identity that can actually be lying to us, set in, formulated by negative ongoing thoughts where it's like, wait a minute, that's not even me. No wonder I'm feeling like I'm not me
Yeah.
because the
100%.
thoughts aren't congruent
They're not
with
you.
who I am.
Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. 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 EJ. Hi, EJ. How are you?
He did it today. Yeah, no thoughts, and that's the interesting thing. It's like I've been listening. There's,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you brought up the topic a couple days ago, and then everything that's been flooding my life has been about affirmations and reframing. Um, because Louise Hay, she's heavy on affirming, and I think the negative. I think what happens is like we get so caught up, like you'll just start daydreaming, and then you'll just be
Yeah.
stuck in this weird space, and then before you
Yes.
know it, it's one thought, right? Oh, you think about, oh gosh, that lady at the grocery store, oh, da 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 da, and then it's just like from there it just goes into the weirdest rabbit holes, and it can just plummet,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And then you're
Yeah.
stuck in
Yeah.
this weird negative space, and you're talking
Yeah.
about the feeling that comes with it, which is interesting because for me, the one of the first things that I had to learn was addressing the ick feeling, the icky, because if it's a negative thought pattern, and you start
Yes.
to kind of go into that and fall into that, you start to feel kind of icky. Like
Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
don't feel
Yeah.
good, you feel
Yeah.
scared, anxious, and
Yes.
I had to learn as soon as I start feeling those, like those alarms going off in my body, I had
Yes.
to stop myself and I just would pause. And I was learning how to just kind of embrace myself and love myself in the moment enough to
Right. Right.
talk myself out of that hole, really. And it's like, you're
Yes.
okay. And it's self
Yes.
affirming. It's like, I'm here. I'm okay.
Yes.
I love you. You're loved. You're okay. You're safe. It's
It's
okay.
such a different feeling that brings on you.
Yeah.
It's such a different feeling. And sometimes when I first began understanding my thoughts and the power of thoughts, I noticed that for a second it wouldn't feel real. And I feel like in the beginning, like I was tricking myself and I knew it. I was like, wait a minute, I'm really feeling like I'm feeling okay that I corrected that thought, but is that all there is to it? And actually was that easy that it was
Yeah.
kind of surprising because I thought, oh wow, you mean to tell me it's that easy? And essentially it is. And that's the thing about thoughts are so tricky because it's so easy, yet it's so ingrained. It's so
That's
easy,
the part.
yet it's so multifaceted. Like, and I think the part for me that could get a little pulley, a little battly, is when one of the thoughts is attached to a weakness or in a part of you you don't necessarily want, but you don't know if you could overcome that. And so that thought becomes a giant now because now it's like, oh, wait, that's what I had fear about. And oh, God, that's the thought. Oh, no. And so it almost like a wave will crash. But what I've realized is, again, thoughts create kind of actions, and then actions create other actions that create more that really go into more of character, right? But if you get the thoughts first and correct the thoughts, and then that will, you kind of then gear where your life is going to go versus where your thoughts are going to go. And I've noticed when you let go and you just let your thoughts, that's a really bad place to be in. You must control your thoughts to a degree. If you, I'll say it this way. I feel like if you don't and you just let your thoughts wander, that could be a dangerous ground. We,
Oh, 100%. If you don't know how to control them or witness them, 100%, which is why it typically will lead you to a lower level of consciousness. It'll lead you to what Dr. David R. Hawkins would consider the hell paradigm, right?
wow.
Because you're living inside of your own hell.
Ooh,
You're living in
that,
apathy, you're living in fear, guilt, shame. That's hell,
Mm,
technically.
that's scary.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
scary. Now, when you say, I notice you said a term right now. You said be the observer of your thought. Like, can you explain more about that? Do you think there's a lot of people out there that may not be observing their own thoughts? They may even be in a state of denial about their thoughts?
I don't know. I don't know if people are in a state of denial about their thoughts. I think they become victim to their thoughts,
Okay, okay, okay. Now,
right?
do you think that there are some thoughts that are more subtle, tricky, kind of like maybe more in the subconscious realm, tricky?
Oh, yes, 100%. Well, and the interesting thing is that you have the conscious thoughts, right? You have the thoughts that are on the surface. But from what I have found in my studies, is that, when it comes to self affirming and manifesting,
Yeah.
the subconscious belief system will always win over whatever it is that you want, right? So, and that's why some people, they'll be like, oh, just write 8 million times on sticky notes I am statements and paste them all over. You've papered your entire freaking apartment with I am statements on sticky notes, and none of it changes you because you read it, but still on the inside, when you're like, I
Mm.
am beautiful, you hear that thought, no, you're not. That no, you're not is your true belief, right? So
Oh, so it's
that's
not
the truth.
penetrating anything.
No,
It's
no,
it's going to a point and falling. It's
yes,
not. Oh my gosh. Okay, that makes
yes,
a lot of sense. So we have to actually then believe what we're telling ourselves.
yes, yes. And in order to get to that space, and here's the part like the little sleight of hand ish, right? Because
Mm, yeah,
to adjust the subconscious, it can be done, but you
yeah.
have to figure out why that little voice is saying, no, you're not in the first place. So that means you have to follow that little white
Mm.
rabbit down that hole to that one affirmation,
Oh,
right? And then the other 3 million that you've papered your walls with, you have to follow each one. You have to follow that little white rabbit down the hole to see where it stems from and then work in that and release.
you mentioned affirmation, but I want to be clear. It doesn't have to be a positive affirmation, correct? You could follow that negative affirmation into some negative word that was spoken, right?
Well, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm. And question, can that all it be? One word that really stuck with you that someone called you and it just over and over. Isn't that terrible? Isn't
Yeah.
that
And
terrible?
that's
That's terrible.
oftentimes it's the people that we love the most, right? It's a parent, it's a priest or whatever, a sibling or a best friend or a
Right.
teacher that you think
Right.
that walks on water, it could be
Yeah,
anybody,
but
and
see, that's
usually it's
probably the
from childhood, right? Because we're so
right, right.
impressionable as children. And the way you take
Yes.
in things as a
Absolutely.
child, as an adult, you're like, oh, well, they didn't mean it like that. You understand.
Right. Right.
But as a child, right? And she just said her boss, like, and that boss could be actually delivering a repetition that is a mirror to something that is so far back you might not even remember. So your boss might be
Oh.
actually repeating something for you to follow that and understand where that's sitting within yourself, because it's a mirror typically for something that needs to be kind of dredged up potentially and dealt with and released.
No, I have a question about that specifically. Is you work with people with hypnosis specifically, and I'm sure you've been in instances where there is a blocked memory, right? Or there is a barrier of. Can you maybe explain a little bit about that? Where does that block come from, and how do we kind of bulldoze through that?
So I don't know if bulldozing is always the best option. I'm more like I would probably want to bulldoze. Like you and I are very similar.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
just
Just
blow it
roundhouse
out of the
kick it.
water, right? Just pack it in C4, right?
540. 540.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but when there are things that these are typically repressed emotions and repressed memories that are so deep in the subconscious
Yeah.
that your consciousness like stuffs down to the point where you typically don't even remember. It's almost like a skip on a record, right? And
Mm.
so it's almost like a fragmentation of a soul piece because it
Oh,
might have been
wow.
so traumatic that you
Yeah.
removed yourself, right? Which is
Wow.
what the soul will
You
do.
actually
Absolutely.
checked out.
Yeah, 100%. Especially as a small child.
Disassociate. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yes, Jessica, it does. It helps with grief. And because the whole thing is, but the thing is that you don't want to reintroduce the trauma. So,
I've heard you say that. I've heard, and
yeah.
that's why I'm so glad that if you guys are interested in hypnosis, Angela here is wonderful. She's hypnotized me. She's very good at what she does. She's very careful at what she does. I think you're absolutely amazing at what you do, Angela. And yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a very interesting and it's a very delicate place because to meddle around in someone's subconscious, right? You have to be of
Yeah.
sound and pure mind and heart, in my opinion. Right? Anybody can work on anybody, right? You can go to whomever, whatever. It's your choice.
It's,
It's your
yeah.
body.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for me particularly because of I truly do care. I care about people. And
Yes. Yes.
I would be remiss, like even teaching knives, right? For instance, like I won't teach
Yeah.
knives to people unless I know their
Right.
heart, right? It's the same thing. It's like I'm not going to go tinkering around in someone's brain. And granted, you can wake up,
Right.
you can just open your eyes. It's not like you're gone.
Sure.
You've been under.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
All you have to do is go no, and you just open your eyes, and that's it. Um,
Absolutely.
but it's a very when you're dealing with trauma,
Yeah.
the whole reintroducing, depending upon how deep the trauma is and how traumatic it was.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
it's so important. And even if they don't come to me, that's fine. Like even if you're going to a hypnotist somewhere else, God, whatever, it's
Yeah.
important that they don't reintroduce the traumatic event as reliving it because sometimes talking through it just by that alone can reintroduce the trauma, right? So the talk therapy sometimes doesn't help because you're right back there, right? And like I
Mm-hmm.
did this to myself the other day. I was talking to a girlfriend and I was talking about this thing that happened when I was a little girl, why
Yeah.
I have a phobia for needles. And I was like, oh, and I was like, well, shoot. I was right back there in the hospital. And so I was like, oh man, and I could feel everything coming up within me, the anger, the straight fear. I was horrified. And like
Mm.
I was like, oh man, like that's a thing. I need to address this. Um, but I didn't re-traumatize myself necessarily because it really wasn't something that traumatizing. Um, something like SA or anything like that, right?
Right. Right. Right.
But for that instance, that's why it's so important that when we're doing hypnosis or even meditation, it's important that we don't
Yeah.
re-enter the situation as ourselves. We re-enter the situation as a third party witnessing the situation and then
Gotcha.
watching our younger self, right? Our inner child, as it were. So it's best to do that.
Which makes total sense because if we're going in again as ourself, we're reliving it. If we're going in as a third party viewing it, we're not in it. We're out of it. We're viewing it. We're
Yeah.
not in it, right?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. And I think that's why, too, it's a good idea. And I think it's a good idea to work with somebody who is actually certified, right? Who actually has a certification in it because you want to know You want to have faith in the person of what they're doing, right? Especially it being hypnosis,
Mhm.
because you want to trust the person. And yeah, so absolutely, absolutely. Another thing that's gotten a lot of recognition recently, and um, um, Andrew Huberman has been at the heart of it, who is actually, he is a neurobiologist, actually. And he talks a lot about neuroplasticity, which I
Yes.
think is absolutely intriguing. Neuroplasticity being the brain kind of building these new neural pathways. And we realize then we can actually damage our brain or heal our brain by our own brain.
Yes.
And that to me is astonishing, because I think if anyone, we want to heal our brain, but there are people who are continually damaging their brain. And it's so, oh my gosh, to me, detrimental.
Oh, I agree.
It,
I agree 100%. But
yeah,
it's, again, it is choices just like you said, and
yeah.
it's the same thing. It's like the guy at the pools of Bethesda. Do you want to be healed, or do you want to keep identifying with that pain? Because that get
And
and
that's belief in itself.
dude, and I totally get that. When I
Yeah,
remember distinctly when I was with my ex years ago, when in all my 20s, we were together for all of our 20s,
yeah,
and he was just, he had just done all this stuff, and I hated him, right?
yeah,
I was like, I hope he gets hit by a train. Like I loathed him, and I hated
yeah,
myself
yeah.
for being with him for so long. And hey, and I remember we reconnected like 4 years later, and I could release the pain. But
Mm.
I distinctly remember sitting with that with myself, and I was like, and I said it even to him, I was like, my anger towards you has been driving me for these past 4 years. It's been my reason to do what I do because I was so
Wow.
angry at you, and it has been my driving force. I got on stage competing in bodybuilding, all of this, like I started doing like totally different stunt work, and it
To
was
be clear,
all because of
to be
this.
clear though, this isn't what you wanted. Truthfully, you were doing this as an orchestrated thing to do to get at an individual, kind of.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, I
Okay.
just I gotta one up him. I was so angry,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna do this, that, 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 that. And
Which
that
is so
anger.
weird, because you're so not that person anymore.
I
But so it's just
know.
it's just really such a drastic change to the sweet,
I
Andrew we know,
know.
to being,
Oh, I was like, "Arr." Oh yeah, that was a whole thing. It
hi
was a whole vibe.
Christina.
Um,
Oh, hi Joel. Yeah,
Hi,
sorry.
hey. And I distinctly remember saying to him at one point, I was like, who am I going to be now? Like, who am
Mm,
I now? Because I'm
mm,
releasing this pain, and that's who I have identified as. Like, I
yes.
was Gary's girlfriend for so long, right? I was just, oh, that's
Right.
Gary's girlfriend. Now, who
Right.
am I? When we broke up, I was like, well, now who am I? I had no identity, and I
Ooh,
had wrapped around
interesting.
that. And then I switched it to, I hate that
Mm.
motherfucker. So I'm going to do this. And so then I had to release that. And I was like, now
Mm.
what's going to be my driving force if I don't have this anger and this rage? Because I
Oh,
identified with it so
wow.
deeply. I
Wow.
lost myself in it.
Wow. Wow.
It was
And,
crazy.
and, and, and again, we're talking about thoughts, right?
Yep.
Essentially.
Yeah. All of that was
We're,
all my thought. And it was just
wow.
like, and it kept me going every day, kept my feet on the ground and kept me going straight forward, like smoke trail, like boom.
And I'm just curious then, if you were to just kind of stop in your tracks and just kind of have a moment, and do you think you would have understood where you're going to be now, or would it be more like you wouldn't even give yourself the time of day to think. You would just be on go.
I was on
Like,
go
or if
mode,
you did,
100% go mode. No,
it's
back
just
then, totally different.
such a dramatic change because now you're not on go. I mean, you are, but not on the same go. You're on a spiritual go, and it's like it's so intriguing just to see the difference because and you've talked to me about the Angela who was, and it's just so intriguing to me because it's so different. It's so different from the person you truly are, and so that you see the power thereof of the thoughts you had, the thoughts you have now, in the life you're going to have, which is it just you could see the contrast, and
Oh
that's
yeah, huge. And I was
the
writing my own
power there.
self-fulfilling prophecy, 100% with
Gee,
men because of the way I thought about men. Because of my father, I had this deeply seated belief system, right?
mm,
I love guys, right? I was like, I love men, but what was
yeah.
in me would come out every now and again, and it would be like all men are liars and cheaters and waste of space, and it was visceral. Like I could feel the
Mm,
rage bubbling in me when I would say it.
wow.
And at one
Yeah.
point, I had
Yeah.
to sit and look at myself, and I'm like, hello? You're the reason you keep finding exactly what you believe is out there. Hello? Is anyone home?
Right.
Like, and it dawned on me, and I was like, holy crap. And then I started shifting that. I was like, there's actually beautiful men out there. I've worked with some
Wow.
of the most beautiful, loving men who love their wives and their families, and they dote on them. And I just know amazing males who are full of love and compassion, and they want to show up and they want to lead, and they're these incredible human beings. Even when I couldn't see them in my direct environment, I was still reminding myself I have to shift this because there are those
Mm.
males out there. And as
Even
soon
though
as
you
I really
couldn't
go ahead.
immediately identify with who you even wanted to attract to, you still had that within you because you knew what was correct, right?
Yeah.
And so can you talk a little bit about what was it, the pivotal moment? What were like you feeling? What were you feeling? Because for somebody, there may be somebody watching that is on that spiritual journey right now. That's like, well, maybe I am rushing through things, and maybe I am going based on anger, and so what were some of the factors that were like, oh, okay,
Well, I had some people who spoke exactly that to me, and they're like, well, if that's what you keep thinking you're going to find, that's what you're going to find. And it always is seek and ye shall find, right? And you hear it, but
yes,
it doesn't
like
penetrate
dawn on you. Yeah, 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 yeah.
until it does. And then you're like, oh, and then I
Okay.
just felt like a complete asshole. Like, this is
Mm.
all me. Everything in my life is me, right? The reason I am where I am, it's all because of me. It's because of a thought. It's because of a seed I have planted at some point. It's because of what is living within me. And I was meeting men that were just shitty. Like they look good, but
Yeah,
they were shitty, right?
yeah,
And then I refused. I was like, no. And really as soon as I shifted that, even though
yeah,
I couldn't see it yet,
yeah,
shifting that focus and really kind of affirming that there are them, and I started to once and that's the thing, it's like repetition, and eventually
yeah.
you start to understand that you can feel it and it is true.
Is
And
that
once
kind of
your thoughts then
now can you project that also, Angela, onto like God, for instance? Because we can't necessarily see the invisible, but we can feel.
100%, and see, in my opinion, doing that is God, right? It's the
Oh, that's a good point.
knowing, it is God, right? It's knowing that it's there without seeing it.
There you go. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because I'm
yeah,
like, I know there are beautiful men. I don't
yeah.
see it right this moment, but I know there are men out there who are incredibly kind and still sexy and still protective and all the things that I could ever dream up. That is
Just
God.
like, absolutely, because just like a spirit, we can't see spirit with our two eyes. We can't see God, but we could trust that God is and make that a reality, right? So, yes,
100%.
absolutely, absolutely. Wow. That's astonishing. That's powerful. That's, and see, that is the midst of thoughts. Everything really we're discussing is all a thought process, which is interesting because if you take away the human ability to think, there
Mm.
wouldn't be. So it's almost like thoughts center around so much, and I think it's so important, just as you said, get a grasp on them because that makes all the difference.
Yeah, I agree. And I think
Yeah.
emotions or feelings are equally, if not more important, because of the millions of thoughts that come along with each feeling.
Yes, that's a really, really good point there because, as we know, Aaron Beck, who actually was one of the founders of cognitive behavioral therapy, which actually really at the heart of CBT, all it is changing your negative thoughts into positive ones, to put it in simple terms. And really, that can look really ugly, actually. A lot of people with the severest forms of depression, coming from a series of just negative, pessimistic
Yeah.
thoughts, and actually kind of dismantling those thoughts and replacing them with more realistic, positive thoughts actually shows CBT can be much more effective than medication like an SSRI, SNRI, like even some other forms of ketamine therapy actually show CBT can actually, again, neuroplasticity, rewire the brain. And so I think that is really something because a lot of people, number one, don't want to take medication. Number two, some people want a more natural remedy to their anxiety, to their depression. Now,
Mhm.
a lot of people too have to realize that a lot of people who start CBT for anxiety, for depression, have to realize something. And it's a really hard point to realize, but a lot of people have to realize when you're going through that, this is so hard to say, but you're doing it to self.
Yes.
You're doing it to self. And I know that sounds hard because, like, wait a minute, I'm already struggling with anxiety and depression. You're saying I'm causing this? To, yes, a degree, yes, because we have to remember our thoughts, remember, aren't just thoughts out there that are going like this and we just catch them, right? um, those thoughts come in. And again, I want to stress this because it's our responsibility as humans. And I don't think this is talked about much, but it
Right.
is absolutely our responsibility as humans to get that thought, receive the thought, dissect the thought. Is this thought congruent with who I am? Is this an ego-syntonic thought, or
Mhm.
is this thought an ego-dystonic thought? Does this thought go congruently with who I am, or is it going contrary to who I am? Do you keep it? Do you reject it? The more you start doing that to each, the more you're exercising both sides of those. The more you exercise that one, the bigger that one muscle gets. So do not start taking all the negative thoughts because you're just getting a bigger negative muscle. All
Yes.
right. So that and the thing about that is I really, hopefully, with this podcast, I really hope to expose thoughts for what they really are: powerful,
Oh, extremely. Yes.
powerful, but at the same time, as much power as we give them too. If we all of a sudden give them power, it's like, oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I'm stupid. we're giving it that power. If we get that thought, I'm stupid, that's ridiculous, I'm very smart, you realize that thought has no power. So you have to learn also and decipher and discern what thoughts to expand on, what thoughts to embellish, and what thoughts to just crumble and throw away. You know what I do to this day, believe it or not, and I did this ever since I was younger. I'd get a series of negative thoughts. If I ever felt overwhelmed with them, I would actually project them into the toilet and flush them, literally. And it
Okay,
would
yeah.
almost be like a flushing of, negative thoughts. Because remember, guys, while we're talking about the psychological ramifications of thoughts, remember, there's a whole spirit side to things. And we've just been really talking about the psychological aspect. Now, the ramifications for the spiritual side are even more detrimental. They, they, their thoughts are so powerful in the spirit realm and the physical realm, don't get me wrong, but in the spirit realm, they're just as powerful because remember, um, inside of our brain, our core, we are first and foremost a spirit first than anything else. So it's very important we align our thoughts with our highest self, right? Because if we align our thoughts with who we think we ought not to even do that. It's to our highest self. We may not even be aware of who we think we could possibly be one day. With that saying, I think it's so important to put it into perspective. Don't let these thoughts, get to you. Don't let the negative thoughts win. If you have to, um, become a fighter. Fight the thoughts. Like, literally. And I think that's one thing me and Angela both, we're both professional fighters. And I think that's one thing that we also have in common. I think there's been an aspect of us fighting and an aspect of almost like a psychological one as well. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I think that is also an outlet. Um, they already have one. So yeah, thank you for sharing the live, Jessica. So
Thank
yeah, definitely a very, very interesting topic here.
So
If
now I'm going
anyone
to
has any
ask you
questions,
though,
please jump in.
I got
Yeah,
a question
absolutely.
for you. Because we've talked
Yes.
about the thoughts and then the feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
The feelings and the emotions that people refuse to feel.
Mm,
Do you think that can be more powerful and disabling? More powerful, equal, lesser than the thoughts? Because you said,
yeah.
don't let the thoughts
Yeah.
win, right? And you can have the negative thoughts, but is it not also the thought combined with the feeling that makes it
Mm,
planted, right? Because people are going to have negative thoughts. Don't think that,
yeah. Yeah.
like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
I'm a fat cow and then it happens. Like, no. But it's planting the
Right.
seed, combining heart and mind and
Right.
intent, right?
Right.
So, do you
Right.
think the emotions that people are or are not, more likely are not, because people apparently are terrified to feel, do you
Right.
think they're worse, equal to, or lesser
What
than the thoughts as far as detrimental?
I I would say 1000% worse.
Okay.
Yeah. Just if because remember, just like you said, the thoughts are gonna have us feel a certain way, right? Now,
Right.
some people react with anger, right? As soon as they get hurt, underneath hurt, a lot of times boils anger, right?
Yeah.
So I think yes, it can be very, very detrimental to how we're feeling after the thought it has kind of done its ramifications.
So then, answering that, but going on to my next question now, the
Yeah.
feelings that people have refused to feel.
Yes.
Do you think those primarily are the reason for the negative thought spirals.
So, kind of, so I understand your question completely, is it almost like a cycle? Kind of like a cycle?
Yeah. Because, like, let's
Yes.
say, when I'm 7,
Yeah.
something happened and I've just pushed it down to my
Right.
toes, locked it away,
Right.
chucked it in Davy Jones' locker.
Right.
Those feelings that I refuse to feel are gonna come up,
Yes.
right? But the thoughts that it's kind of like a nucleus of a cell, right? The thoughts that completely
Yes.
envelop that feeling are
Yes.
still there, and they're still
Yes.
gonna be coming to the surface. So
Yeah.
from that, it's like which one do you think maybe you address more or first, right? Or is does
Really,
one
really,
beget the other? Or like how what's your opinion?
that's a really, really, really good, fascinating question. Um, Gosh, that's a good question. So it's almost like what came first, right?
Right.
In a sense. Now, if we say that because the thought is going to create the feeling, but we're kind of packing down that feeling, right? We're burying
Right. Mm-hmm.
that feeling. So we're not letting it expand. But are we also getting the thought and kind of like just going like that with you? Or kind of like a passive thought? I know I'm having the thought. Really, it does. We're saying that just to have more. It's almost like being passive about our thoughts, right? Because it's like we know we're getting it, but we're being so passive because we're like, oh, well, I'm doing something right now. So let me pack it down again. So I think in essence, it's a vicious cycle. I think it could become a very vicious cycle with that because now we're dealing with repressed feelings, right? That we're packing so far down. But then, yet, when we get the thoughts, we don't feel the feeling fully because, God, if we do that, well, who knows? Who knows what kind of uncontrollable rage, right? So we have
Yeah.
to.
Keep
Now,
pushing it.
but see, that right there, that pushing. One day, like a computer, you're going to get so much hit in the screen one day and it's going to overload and just, and I think personally, that's how even psychological things can occur like anxiety, chronic
100%.
stress that leads to anxiety, that leads to OCD, that leads to other things. Now, that can also lead to depression, but I also believe that can also lead to things like what's called a nervous breakdown or a psychotic break because we're suppressing so much in this poor brain that it only the more you push it's going to break somewhere, right?
Right.
The more you go like that, it's going to give. The more apps you have on your phone or computer, it's going to give one day. It's going to go full. I think in the
100%.
same sense is it we're going to crack, okay? And crack good though. It depends how we crack. If we crack and we say, you know what, enough of this, I don't want to carry all this anymore. I want to give this to God. I want to give this to Source. I want to better my life. Great. Now, if you crack and you say, well, that's it, and you have a very pessimistic view, I would encourage you to try and have another view just because um, there's always, in my opinion, and Angela, we were just talking about this, it's always, in my opinion, there's always hope. There's always hope. And I think that's a good thing that we don't even necessarily have to have a thought of, do we? We could trust and hope without there being a thought.
Absolutely.
That that's which I think is very powerful because no thought could take that away from us then.
Oh, I agree. And I think for me, um, and the reason I asked you that question is because the
Yeah.
way I think about it
Yeah.
is the emotion, the pain came first, typically, in my opinion, typically speaking, because
Yes.
it's usually from childhood, right?
Yes.
And we're in a
Yes.
place where we probably aren't thinking negatively as a child, right? We're probably in a rather innocent space. And then things
Probably
happen.
more of perceiving than judging.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
then things happen, and then trauma and all this stuff, and you have these feelings.
Yeah.
And then obviously, according to whatever, your little microcosm that is your life, you push
Yeah.
them down. Dr. David R. Hawkins says you either suppress them, you express them, or you escape. And those
Ooh.
are the three different ways we deal with emotions. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
suppress versus repress, right? So those two
Yes.
go together. Um,
Yes.
and
Yes.
having said that, that's why I tend to think most of the time the emotion or the feeling came first, which then breeds all of these different thoughts and how you kind of navigate from there on in.
Mm.
And that breeds then the self talk.
Now, question though, Angela, that actually kind of goes head to head then with CBT because CBT is saying it's the
Yeah.
thoughts that's creating the feelings. Now, this is an interesting aspect because now we're talking about the feelings creating the thoughts,
Yeah. And that's what we were
which
talking about. We were like, huh, that's
which
interesting
is
because they go completely
yeah,
against.
which absolutely, which is really intriguing because it really then has another formula. It takes another formula. And I think that's so important because I honestly think that's the part traditional CBT, like Dr. Aaron Beck, left out. And I think that's such a crucial understanding because remember, there are feelings. We are human with
Yeah.
feelings and a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So, yes, it makes perfect sense that when we get those feelings, we get the thoughts along with those feelings. We get those thoughts along with the feelings, vice versa.
Yeah.
Yes, that's so important because you know what, too, and this is a very interesting concept to kind of capitalize on your thought there is when we have really bad pain in our body, right? Like really bad, it glooms everything. It gets to our thoughts. We start thinking, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go out. I don't want to go for a walk. I don't want to do this. I'm in pain. It hurts.
Yeah.
That's not thoughts. You're in pain. You're in legitimate pain.
Yeah.
So it's now glooming the thoughts. So now that pain is shaping the very thoughts we're having, signifying not all feelings come from thoughts. Sometimes thoughts come from feelings. And it's so important you brought that up, and I'm so glad you did because it shows that other area which thoughts could form.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, and obviously, then for whomever is trying to heal these things, it's going to be whichever road fits, right?
Yes, yes. Were you hurt and because of that hurt now you need to relinquish the thoughts, or was it something said that you heard that got itself in there and now you need to redo what was said or what was felt too? So maybe what they said kept here and then what they said hurt here, and now you got a double whammy, and
Right.
now it's just going like this, right? So absolutely,
Yeah.
1000%. I absolutely love that question because it really brings out the other side of the thoughts. Really, yeah,
Yeah. Emotions
that's
are
really.
important. This whole freaking book. Remember this book?
Mm,
This whole freaking
yeah.
book is
Oh my
basically
gosh.
about emotions and
Wow.
feelings that
How
people
many
have.
pages? How many pages is that? How many pages is that?
Technically 686.
Oh, and that's on.
These are all different ailments that the body
Oh,
feels,
oh my
from
god.
A to Y. um, and it doesn't cover every single thing on the planet, right?
Yeah.
But quite literally, anaphylaxis, breast cysts, bulimia, heart attacks, lung
Oh,
cancer, pineal gland problems, shin splints, tonsil issues, tongue problems, worms. Like what? Wilson's syndrome. I don't even know what that is. But all of these delve into trauma,
wow.
emotions, how people are feeling,
Yeah.
and what it does to the body.
Wow.
It is
That is
so interesting.
That's astonishing. That is beyond astonishing. Jessica said, "I've convinced myself I'll never heal, mostly because of grief."
Mm.
Yeah, that's tough, Jessica. That speaks a lot, and I'm really sorry you're feeling that way. That's a tough place to be in, to really never truly feel like you're gonna heal. And I always say sometimes too is when we have a loss and we have grief, do you heal? And my thought on it is, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of backlash, but yes, we do heal. And I think we allow how much we're gonna heal though. Because if we tell ourselves certain things, then we're creating our own prison, right? We're putting up our own
100%.
fences. So if we tell ourselves, or if we tell someone that comes from ourselves, honestly, I don't think I'm gonna heal. You might not. Why? Because you're building that fence. Now, if you tear the fence down and you say, wait a minute, let me just say it this way. I can heal. I'm not saying I will, but I can. Is so much better than saying I don't think I will. Because again, when we tell ourselves something, we could tend to believe it without verification because it's coming directly from us, even though we're telling someone else.
100%.
Thoughts, words are so words have life and death are in the tongue. Okay, words have so much meaning, and you know and it's funny, I don't know if I would even get this if it wasn't for my ability because I've learned so much from being psychic and being a medium that, my gosh, it's just so powerful. Everything, our tongue, what we say, what we think, what we believe. Oh
Yeah.
my God. And,
Well, it
and,
says
and it's no
in the
wonder.
even in the Bible, it says, let them say, I am what, strong, I think. It doesn't say I'll get strong. It says I am strong, right? And it doesn't
Yes,
say to go get strong. It just says speak it.
correct. As a man thinketh, so is he. And
Yeah.
that's very biblical.
Yeah.
It's very biblical when the Bible actually says, "Take captive every thought." That's in the
Boom.
Bible.
Boom.
Take captive every thought. What does that mean? That means then what Jesus is implying is it starts here. That's the battleground. That's where it starts.
Yes.
That's right. So it's so important. But and Jessica, I'm not telling you that you're wrong for how you're feeling. I'm absolutely not doing that. I'm just saying I really hope you have more of a idea of healing than just saying it's difficult to heal, not impossible. I'm too
Stuff
hard
with
to read because
tears.
of walls. No, I know. Thank you. No, it's okay, Jessica. It's okay. And I'm sure it's probably been a war, and I'm um that's like that for a lot of people, and a lot of people are severely clinically depressed. And but see, the thing is with people who are seriously in that state, we have to remember, call it major depressive disorder, which is the clinical term, call it clinical depression. It is still treated by the same concepts we were talking about tonight very deeply. So believe me, I take a very clinical stance to things, but I also know with thoughts are so real and so powerful, they can be life changing. So that in the same clinical setting, I back that up with the same clinical sense is our thoughts.
100%. 100%. And she said she's been struck with grief for over 10 years, so she just cut everybody off. And
Oh,
I think
wow.
that's probably going to keep things festering, cutting everybody off. I think that's, healing it's very individual, right? It's very individualistic. Um, just like a thumbprint, right? So everyone's path to healing is going to look a little different. Um,
Yeah,
Grief is hard, but I think this is where our jobs, like doing mediumship work,
yeah,
also helps, I think, remind people that it's not over. Like when my father passed,
hmm,
since his passing, I've actually become closer with him than I ever did in life.
that's so crazy, and I know exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah, way closer. And I understand him and I understand everything that happened now, why it happened, and there's a closeness. Not to say, but also like he wasn't in my life, right? So the
Right,
grief was, it was intense, but it was short-lived, right? And
right.
I don't know if it's because of the work I do
Yeah,
or because he wasn't really in my life that I was able to be like, transition, like, go ahead, it's okay. Like, I know you're
yeah.
going to be fine because I've been there. Like, but
Right, right,
it,
right, right,
I don't know
right.
if it's that or maybe it's the culmination of both things, but
Maybe.
grief and loss are, for me, death was one of the most difficult things to deal with my whole life. And we've talked about this, remember, to like ad nauseum because I've been to so many funerals.
Right. Oh
And,
my God. Yeah.
right. So
Oh my
death was
gosh.
always something that I could not handle. I could not get over
Mm.
because it was so finite for here.
Mm.
And it is
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
here, for the tangibility to hug
Yeah.
someone and see them and hear their
Wow.
voice, and it's so important and we become so attached to that. And
Yeah.
this has been an internal struggle of mine now for a while. I've lost two friends and it's messed me up so much. I
Mm.
understand that walk. I've lost
Ooh.
several people. And I can laugh about it because it's been a
Mm.
crazy ride. But what I do know is that I can still feel them. I know they're there. I know they're okay because of the work I do. And I still see them. And here's the crazy thing.
Mm.
This is how amazing God is and how amazing universe, whatever you want to call it, spirit, whatever, potatoes, potato Pringles, whatever you want to call it. This is how amazing it is. You'll meet that person in another body.
Mm.
Like you'll still meet the same soul,
Absolutely.
but in another body. And that's how amazing it is. Right? And that's how I know we're all one, right?
Yeah.
Because it's and I tend to I've met I think the beast was absolutely a version of my father. Um
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like holy smokes, cuz and that's the beautiful thing, but also like damn, the double-edged sword thing as well. um
Mm.
but I have lost many dear friends,
Yeah.
and I mean there's nothing I'll ever be able to say that's going to help you feel better. Like that's ridiculous. It's impossible.
Right.
um
Right.
but the carrying of the grief it can, I'm not going to say is because that's not fair. I'm not going to impose that upon you. Carrying grief and not allowing it to move through you and and kind of like shutting yourself off to other people and life in general stifles energy and it keeps it stagnant within you and therefore
Hmm.
can create dis-ease,
Hmm.
right? So
Essentially, Angela, it's actually working against.
absolutely, absolutely,
Hmm.
because you're
Hmm.
carrying something for people who they don't need it because they're great, right?
Right.
We're the ones that are left to feel.
Hmm.
And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think the feelings
Yeah.
that it runs the gamut. There's so many freaking emotions and feelings. It's ridiculous. And it's such a beautiful gift. It's one of the most beautiful gifts of being a human. And people want to numb themselves of all of them all the time.
Because they're feelings they don't want
Yeah.
for
And it's
for
so
the moment.
heavy.
And yeah,
Right.
there's so many implications. Yeah.
So many. But the trick is to feel them and surrender to them.
Because our bodies do a great thing of feelings,
Yes.
which that's part of being human.
Yes.
It's just when we want to block what our God given human nature is, it's no wonder we turn to substances because we can't stop it. It's not made to just stop.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you both. I appreciate you both. Absolutely, Jessica. And again, I'm so sorry you're feeling what you're feeling and going through what you're going through.
Absolutely.
But I hope maybe you could take little bits and pieces of this maybe and just kind of like intertwine them into your life to the best of your ability to do so.
Absolutely. And be mindful of that grief just because it can create ailments, right? It can create disease and ailments and
Can you talk a
disorders and
little
stuff like
bit
that.
about that? Can you just kind
Pardon?
of elaborate a little? Can you elaborate a bit on that when you say it could create elements in disease? Um, what are we talking about? Clinical element?
Oh,
Like, are we
absolutely.
talking
100%. Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. What
So,
are some of
like,
those things?
for instance, I'll speak on anger. A lot of time,
Oh,
oh, geez. Well, those are heavy words. Those are heavy words to write, Jessica.
yeah,
And I don't like the fact that you're condemning yourself to a certain place, right? And
yeah,
that's not fair to do that to yourself. And you're
right.
not and it's loving yourself is so important. Um, but the anger. I'll talk about anger for starters. As women, we particularly hold everything, a lot of anger and repressed emotion, or suppressed, sorry, in our womb area, right?
Mm.
So we'll
Mm.
have issues with our hips or our reproductive organs. Um,
Mm.
and interestingly enough, suppressed anger that just lingers under the surface because that would be a suppressed feeling. Like the grief that she's having is suppressed. It's not repressed. She knows it's there. She's just
It's
pushing it down. So essentially, what you're doing is you're taking a giant beach ball and you're holding it under the water. And that
mm.
creates tension. It creates tension in everything. It'll create tension headaches. It'll give you
Mm.
period cramps that are probably stronger than what you want. Jaw tension, like clenching your jaw, things that
Mm.
have to do with muscle
Oh, can
tension.
that be people with like a TMJ?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh
Yeah,
wow, wow,
right?
wow.
Because your body is tensing the whole, like constantly. You're having to hold
Right.
this
It's
down.
not like oh wow,
And so it creates
wow.
tension in the body, in the muscular self, right? The
So
musculoskeletal.
what we're talking about then possesses a heaviness,
Oh,
a weight.
absolutely. Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Wow,
Oh,
wow,
it's
wow.
intense. And grief is very heavy. And grief
So
can affect
is it almost like
everything.
if you tie two bricks to your feet
Mm-hmm.
and you're in water, it's gonna drag you. Now, if you know that, it doesn't mean that you have to let that happen. You could clip those, right? And kind of find your way back up to the surface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Because
just,
essentially you put them on yourself, right?
yes. Yes.
Now
But it's
see that's
understanding how to get there. It's really just
ah
finding the path to get there because they
gotcha.
want to get, from here to here. It's like,
Yeah.
crap, I don't know how to get there,
Right, right,
which makes
right.
sense. Right. And,
Makes
and
sense.
really it's just the first step is awareness. The first step is acceptance of that place and really surrendering to it. But yeah,
Mm.
like suppressed emotions and suppressed grief can cause what are those things? What's that? What's that? It's a disease, but it's the biggest load of crap.
Scoliosis?
Huh?
Scoliosis?
Fibromyalgia. Lord Jesus, fibromyalgia.
Fibromyalgia.
Yes, in women particularly because they
So
don't address
heard,
the emotions.
I've heard the idea of fibromyalgia, actually, I've heard this, is a label they put on something because the reason why is because they just have a term for it when really there's no real fibromyalgia. It's just a term to say you're in pain. Bam. Let's slap this on you. So
Yes, one
it makes
thousand
sense.
percent. I
So it
agree
makes
with that.
sense. Okay, yeah. And I think that happens with a lot of disorders and a lot of conditions is, well, let's just go ahead and call it this because then we have a disease. And now with that disease, we have a treatment of medications
Oh,
that's going to help
100%.
you. And I get that's kind of in the right direction because we're going toward helping someone, but it's not. It is, it's not. It's not.
No, it's not.
It,
It's
it's not.
creating another
It's not.
issue more than likely, and you're
No.
just putting a
And if
band-aid
that's
on a gunshot wound.
yeah. Now see if that's all you know though, and that's all you have went to school for is medicine, and then yeah, you could have the perspective of that, and that's all you know, and so yeah, you're generally trying to help people. However, I think it could be a kind of what's the word I want to use for this? Not deceitful, but it could be in another light something completely different than clinical, and it can actually be exactly what you're saying, Angela, an emotional,
Yeah, a
mental
lot of
thing.
autoimmune issues are due to emotions that have not been finished,
Mmm,
due to trauma.
mmm. That's heavy.
The
That's heavy.
Beast's sister sent me like a list of ailments, and it runs in that family. Everybody's got something. And because, oh boy, they all have quite the stories growing up. And a lot of them are autoimmune issues for her. Makes total sense because I know probably more than she knows about her family history.
Oh
But
wow.
I sent her just screenshots of whatever it was that I was looking up. Like, for
Yeah,
instance, assist right now. It's just
yeah.
assist. The first thing here it says, you seem to feel misunderstood by influential people, which causes you to feel alone and empty. That's the first thing it says for assist. It's about feeling
Interesting.
anger, feeling unsafe, cysts on your back relates to anger and feeling unsafe in your life. You need to feel safe in your personal life and working environment. The body overcompensates by
So
developing cysts as a buffer between you and people who are taking advantage of your hard work and goodwill. No one had your back during
oh,
childhood. There's a trauma related to feeling betrayed.
with cysts on the back.
That was particularly cysts on the back.
And what was the last part about childhood?
Feeling like you
Feeling
were,
betrayed?
yeah, like you were stabbed in the back. Oh gosh, hold on. Cysts. There it is. It was no one had your back during childhood.
That's crazy. Because let me tell you something. So that's crazy. And this, honestly, guys, I haven't heard this before. This, she just read this to me now, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you something here. I had a pretty big cyst on my back. Joel had got gloves and took it out. It like, yeah, it was so
What?
gross, Andrew. Oh, it was so gross. But let me tell you something. When you read that last part, I actually didn't feel like many people had my back in childhood. I really didn't. If I'm honestly speaking, I didn't. So that would freaking ring true. That's crazy. And I've never heard you read that before, but
Correct.
asked about cis because the recent one, and I asked about that child because that rings something, and
That's so
huh,
random too that it fell on cyst.
yeah.
And I did not know that you had a cyst.
No, I promise you, I wish Joel was here because he's the one who got it out, and it was growing pretty big here. Yeah,
Woo!
yeah, but
Doctor,
he
he's
got
Dr.
it out
Pimple Popper.
completely. Exactly.
That's
You know, it was,
crazy.
he's like, I ruined my hair.
Oh!
Oh my gosh. But no,
Oh.
no, that's so, but the reason why I really got drawn to that is because that makes sense. And so that's just, and for it to make sense means there is some correlation there. And if there's some correlation there, there's something deeper to be discovered.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so intriguing. I
Yeah, I love
love
that
that.
book. And then this book,
Yeah.
of course, the
And the
Orthomolecular
reason,
Psychiatry.
we're saying we love that. And believe it or not, though, they're books about conditions and
Yeah.
disorders. Yet we
Yeah.
love it. Why? Because it's showing how much more power we have over these conditions.
Oh,
It's not that we're
100%.
like, oh my God, yeah, we like disorders and we like conditions. No, what the reason why we're so ecstatic about it is because we realize it's within us then to manage these conditions.
Yeah.
And that I think is so much better than a book of pills because you're
Yeah.
learning about so many side effects of
Yes. And
dizziness,
I
lightheadedness,
100% believe that the
insomnia.
body can heal itself. 100%.
Oh yeah,
100%.
oh it does. When we get a scratch, what's the first thing it does? It
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it grows. It heals.
Yeah.
It literally heals itself. When we get cut, what do our cells do? They all clump to formulate a clot to stop the bleeding.
Right.
Like our bodies know. It's just I think at that point of when we start correlating everything with our with our thoughts. But same thing. I'm a very firm believer in yes, the body heals itself when we break a bone. The body will heal itself. When
Absolutely.
we get a cut, we will scab up. When we get a burn, there'll be new skin that grows. Like it's crazy how much our body heals, and it does.
Yes, it absolutely does.
So yeah, so I think the only thing is with emotional cutting or emotional wounds is it keeps it open and raw and not healed because of the
Thoughts.
human condition of our mind, our
Yeah.
thoughts goes
Yeah.
back to thoughts,
Yeah.
straight back to thoughts. That's just wow, wow. But see, for some people that might be like, oh, but for us, we're like, oh yes, bring it because oh my gosh, the more we can even lift ourselves in those thoughts
Mhm.
and the more positive thoughts we can have. Listen, the more positive thoughts we could have could source right into heaven. I kid you not. However,
Yep.
we can have the thoughts that source down to the pit of hell. Now, that is the very sensitive nature of thoughts. So get addicted to the good ones, guys, not the bad ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I absolutely love our talks,
I
Angela.
do
This,
too. This is good
oh,
shit.
oh my gosh.
I'm like, dude,
It is
we need to
good.
have like an actual podcast.
I know, right? Seriously. We
And then
will.
have
We
like
will.
people come in and talk.
Yeah, I would love that. Absolutely.
I just need to get back to
Absolutely.
LA. We can have a studio and everything.
Oh my God. I would so be down.
I know. I know. I miss it. I miss being there so much.
Oh, I bet. LA misses you too.
Yeah, Georgia just doesn't hit the same. Not at all. Lord have mercy.